Mercury retrograde in Capricorn. Mercury delights in questioning categorization and fixed concepts. It's the only planet that refuses to be limited to singular categories, as it can be benefic or malefic, nocturnal or diurnal, masculine or feminine, depending upon the surrounding influences it mixes with. In popular astrology, Mercury is often described as linear and logical, yet the ease with which Mercury can interface with the irrational and nonlinear, such as in the interpretation of dreams and omens, reveals how its affinity for deconstruction and destabilization is an essential element of its capacity to bring about primal reordering. When Mercury shifts into its retrograde phase, the star of Hermes makes its home in the liminal and threshold experiences of leaving one state to enter another. Mercury retrograde delivers transitions and twists in storyline, teaching pivotal lessons from unexpected circumstances. With Mercury stationing retrograde in the final days of 2022, it's fitting that Mercury will play a major role in ushering us across the threshold into a new year. Mercury will station retrograde on the 29th of December, 2022, and embark upon a 20-day journey of backtracking from 24 degrees and 21 minutes to 8 degrees and 8 minutes of Capricorn when it stations direct on the 18th of January in 2023. As Mercury retraces the zodiacal terrain from 8 to 25 degrees of Capricorn, he will excavate material that we need to deepen our engagement with, returning our perception to issues we need to release, rework, or reintegrate. Yet the retrograde of Mercury is not limited to review and redo, as the star of Hermes will deepen development in areas of focus, as well as reseed vital ideas and inspiration to enliven work in the season ahead. After passing through a phase of putrefaction and purification, we will experience renewal on the other side once Mercury has returned to visibility and direct motion in the morning sky. Mercury first crossed 8 degrees and 8 minutes of Capricorn on the 12th of December. It will not move beyond 24 degrees and 21 minutes of Capricorn until the 6th of February in 2023, creating almost 2 months of mercurial focus in this range of your natal chart. Of course, the reverse direction of Mercury is an illusion stemming from Mercury orbiting in between the Earth and Sun while retrograde. With Mercury's presence intensified due to being as close to Earth as possible in orbit, the slowness of its backward motion produces a churning quality that can dredge up issues that had been hidden from awareness. With Mercury retrograde in an Earth sign, messages and material carried by our body and bodily senses that we have been mentally neglecting will rise into awareness. Due to Venus forming a conjunction with Mercury on the 29th of December while Mercury is stationing, followed by Venus forming a conjunction with Pluto on the 31st of December, there will be a wealth of deep-rooted material held within the body and inner recesses of psyche to uncover and explore. The connection between Venus and Pluto will activate long-standing relational patterns, with the ghosts of past relationships emerging within the present relational circumstances we find ourselves within. There's an important connection between the alignment of Mercury, Venus, and Pluto at the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023, with the previous alignment of Mercury, Venus, and Pluto that took place at the end of 2021 and the beginning of 2022. While the planetary combination is repeating, the solar phases of Mercury and Venus are opposite. Last year, Venus was retrograde, while Mercury was freshly visible in its evening star phase, whereas this year, Mercury is retrograde, while Venus has recently become visible as an evening star. While there may be specific relationships from last year that have mirroring issues emerge again to address, there's most likely a connection taking place between major relational patterns we needed to address at the end of last year that will be emerging again in new forms. We may realize ways in which we have experienced significant growth, while also recognizing aspects of ourselves that we were requiring more inner work. The Mercury retrograde passage in Capricorn that began in 2023 marks the first of 3 consecutive Mercury retrograde periods in 2023, that will take place wholly in Earth signs. Last year, we gained a taste of Mercury retrograde in Earth signs due to the retrograde periods ending with Mercury stationing direct in each of the 3 Earth signs, after spending most of its retrograde phase in each of the 3 air signs. Taking note of lessons learned from last year can help in orienting to the meaning of Mercury being retrograde in the areas of your natal chart occupied by all 3 of the Earth signs in 2023. A fascinating aspect of Mercury retrograde during 2023 is that the first 3 retrograde periods of the year in Earth signs all feature Mercury in either a flowing trine aspect with Uranus and Taurus or being in close proximity to Uranus. The innovative and liberating influence of Uranus upon Mercury retrograde during 2023 will create opportunities for breaking free from past patterns and making the changes that can accelerate creative development. In addition to paying attention to information found within your body and its connection with your mind and expression, the fact that Mercury will be retrograde in all 3 Earth signs during 2023 will make it important to analyze and review practical structures and routines in your life, as well as the infrastructure and organizational systems you utilize in your work. Capricorn is a cardinal Earth sign ruled by Saturn that also exalts Mars. And so Mercury retrograde in Capricorn can help initiate the fundamental changes that need to be made within personal structures of all sorts, from exercise and nutritional considerations to the ways in which you manage time and space. Take stock of habits getting in the way of efficiency or that are needlessly wasting time that can be purged or reformulated during the retrograde motion of Mercury. Discipline is pleasing to Capricorn, and so it will be an opportune time for getting daily plans and routines adjusted and set in place that you can commit to following through within the year ahead. Mercury retrograde in the nocturnal, cold, dry, and earthy sign of Capricorn has a strong skill set for sorting through and separating factors at play to diagnose the reforms needing to be made. The melancholic quality of Capricorn may influence Mercury to take on a downcast quality at times, brooding over anxieties and worries. But the imaginative nature of Capricorn, combined with Mercury forming 3 sextile aspects with Neptune, the first on the 24th of December before Mercury station retrograde, the second on the 1st of January while Mercury is retrograde, and the final sextile between Mercury and Neptune will be on the 6th of February once Mercury is direct. This sextile between Mercury and Neptune can create opportunities for imaginative exploration that can help in redreaming your vision for what to produce in the new year. The cold and dry quality of Capricorn will also be tempered by Venus forming a conjunction with Mercury at the beginning of its retrograde passage, signaling that Mercury's descent into the underworld while retrograde can facilitate a pivotal renewal of our creative potency and agency. Mercury will not only be retrograde in the earthly domicile of Saturn, it will also be ruled by Saturn, occupying its airy domicile of Aquarius. The powerful influence of Saturn combined with Mercury retrograde in Capricorn will emphasize our relationship with collective influences such as societal conditioning from systemic structures. Societies are formed by laws, regulations, norms, and taboos. Yet we can forget at times how our habitual conformity with certain societal norms can keep us stuck in limiting patterns we wish to break free from. Mercury retrograde in Capricorn will destabilize our perception of societal norms and rules, heightening awareness of ways we have been restricting our authentic expression. As we deepen into a process of revelation, the flowing trine aspect that Mercury retrograde will eventually form with Uranus and Taurus on the 8th of January will unveil a more vibrant presence and creative expression to take on through our work. The mature and responsible nature of Capricorn can facilitate Mercury retrograde, guiding us through a process of taking greater accountability for the work we desire to manifest and embody through our contribution to our wider community. I have a tradition on my blog of often including poetry with my Mercury retrograde articles. And the poet of this Mercury retrograde in Capricorn is Rilke. This is a poem from Sonnets to Orpheus by Rainer Maria Rilke. We drive and are driven, but time's stride. Think of it lost in the ever remaining. All that's hurrying will quickly be past. Only what lingers grants us credence. Boys, don't fling your courage into the thrill of speed or attempts at flight. All that is at rest. Darkness and morning light. Flower and book. That is poem number 22 in that volume. Like the ancient Saturnalia, in which societal conventions are overturned, Mercury retrograde in Capricorn will invert norms in ways that bring awareness to social conformity and taboos. A subconscious portal into exploring our constructs of time and space will open, so we may renew our relationship with phenomenal reality. In Capricorn, the star of Hermes takes on the likeness of his goat-horned and hoofed progeny Pan, who can shepherd us through a journey into our vast inner multiplicity that mirrors the multiplicity of stars above. As Mercury descends from visibility as an evening star at sunset at the end of 2022, the new year will begin with Mercury shepherding us through its invisible phase in which it serves as psychopomp to our own underworld journey. The association of Pan with a scapegoat is relevant, as unrecognized inner material emerging into awareness can be projected onto an other of one sort or another. Intersecting with societal oppression, the collective discharge can often be projected through the lens of collective constructs around ideas of race, gender, or other forms of identity, taking on the ugliness of racism or sexism. When facing inner conflicts around taboos or aspects of ourselves we have been denying, we can utilize Mercury retrograde in Capricorn for coming into greater acceptance of our diverse inner nature and multiplicity of identities, rather than projecting what we don't want to look at about ourselves. In addition, feelings of scarcity or not having enough can become heightened due to the combination of collective economic uncertainty and the emphasis on Capricorn. So there will be a need to take personal accountability and transfigure anxieties into creative production generated from inner strength rather than out of fear or control. There will be a likelihood of harsh words and wounding projections due to the powerful interplay between Mercury retrograde and Capricorn, with Mars retrograde and Gemini at the beginning of 2023. There is a mutual generosity of Mercury being in the exaltation of Mars, while Mars is in the domicile of Mercury. Though you may think of Capricorn and Gemini as being averse to one another, due to them sharing nothing in common, for example, Capricorn being nocturnal, cold, and dry, versus Gemini being diurnal, hot, and moist. Their aversion is actually mitigated due to Capricorn and Gemini being signs of equal ascension that share the same speed, as well as being contra antitia to one another. Planets in exact contra antitia form a midpoint at 0 degrees of Aries, bringing the diversity of their differences together into a potent marriage of manifestation in the world. Mercury will become exactly contra antitia with Mars on the 3rd of January, when Mercury is at 21 degrees and 21 minutes of Capricorn, and Mars is at 8 degrees and 39 minutes of Gemini. Moreover, since Jupiter is close to 0 degrees of Aries, Mars and Mercury will form an exact midpoint with Jupiter on the 1st of January in 2023. As a result, the first few days of 2023 possess a potent planetary picture of Mercury, Jupiter, and Mars. The effects of this combination will be multivalent, ranging from extremes of destruction and current events to incredible creative production in our own personal sphere. Due to both Mercury and Mars being in retrograde phases, it will be an especially fruitful time for gathering resources and doing renovation that builds a stronger foundation for our visible work to emerge later in the year. The powerful interplay between Mercury, Jupiter, and Mars will occur at the same time that Mercury will be entering combustion to burn off excess under the beams of the sun. The image of temperance from Tarot can be helpful during this time, as we will need to undergo a process of purging that acknowledges excess in order to bring about a restoration of balance. With Jupiter at the midpoint of the contra-antitia dynamic between Mercury retrograde and Mars retrograde, we can experience a powerful initiation into a new stage of growth and development. Yet to realize the potential available, we will need to take note of our areas of excess so we can become focused more clearly upon what needs to be purged and consumed by the flames of the sun as Mercury approaches its solar conjunction on the 7th of January. This is another poem by Rilke from Sonnets to Orpheus. Oh, come and go, you still almost a child, with your spell transform for an instant the dance figure. Make it one of those pure constellations in which we fleetingly transcend dull, ordering nature. For she was roused to full hearing only when Orpheus sang. You were still swayed by those ancient chords, and a bit annoyed if a tree took stock before it followed where your hearing led. You still knew the place where the lyre rose resounding, the undreamt of center. For it you practiced those beautiful steps and hoped one day to turn toward total happiness your friend's face and stride. That is poem number 28 from Sonnets to Orpheus. Mercury will become reanimated by its conjunction with the sun on the 7th of January 2023 at 16 degrees and 57 minutes of Capricorn, a day after the Cancer full moon that will take place on the 6th of January. As a result, the light of the silvery moon in her watery domicile of Cancer will fully illuminate the reseeding of Mercury in solar light. The regeneration of Mercury occurs as it aligns in between the Earth and Sun by zodiacal degree, as close to us in orbit as possible for Mercury within its cycle. Known as the inferior conjunction of Mercury, it's a moment of clarifying rebirth that can enhance realization and seed new ideas for the Mercury cycle ahead, in which it will transition into becoming a visible morning star. While Mercury is within 1 degree of conjunction with the sun, even more so within 16 arcminutes of its solar conjunction, there can be empowerment for tasks associated with Mercury, since it is enthroned upon the solar chariot. Older astrological texts named this mode of Mercury's rebirth Kazemi, or being in the heart of the sun. It's a cyclical moment when Mercury enters what Demetra George has named the Sanctum Sanctorum, or the innermost holy chamber of the mystery initiations, found within the protected space at the heart of the sun. Although the inferior conjunction of Mercury is typically felt in hidden interior spaces, the regenerative conjunction between Mercury with the sun on the 7th of January will pack a louder punch than normal due to it being illuminated by the full moon in Cancer, while also forming a flowing trine aspect with Uranus and Taurus that will take place the next day on the 8th of January. The more we can let go of excess and outdated patterns in the lead up to Mercury's inferior conjunction, the better we will be able to receive the emancipatory messages of Uranus and Taurus. This can be a powerful time for research and writing, especially when needing to brainstorm and generate new ideas or ways to reorganize and reconceptualize ideas already under development. It can also be a potent time for creating sacred space to nurture our imaginal, tender connections with the interconnectedness of all. Mercury's inferior conjunction will be just over 1 degree away from the fixed star Vega, a fixed star currently projected onto the ecliptic at 15 degrees and 37 minutes of Capricorn. Mercury will be within a degree of Vega's ecliptic degree when forming its flowing trine with Uranus on the 8th of January. Vega is one of the brightest stars in the entire sky and has ancient significance in sky lore. as the brightest star in the Lyra constellation. It possesses a direct connection to the birth story of Hermes told in the Homeric hymn, an amazing synchronicity as the star of Hermes becomes reborn at this time. After Hermes was born in a cave, his immense curiosity soon led him to journey outside, where he encountered the cattle of Apollo, stealing them and marching them backwards to conceal his theft in a manner mirroring the retrograde motion of the planet named after him. But stealing cattle was not all that Hermes was up to on his first journey into the world, as he also encountered a tortoise whose shell he transformed into a lyre. Once Hermes was confronted by Apollo for stealing his cattle, he sang a song with the lyre and gifted it to Apollo, enchanting the sun god in the process. Enchantment is central to Vega. Ptolemy linked Venus and Mercury to Vega, a further sync with a conjunction of Venus and Mercury in Capricorn, initiating us into the stationing of Mercury retrograde. Bernadette Brady described Vega as bringing creative, mysterious skill, which can be used for artistic, spiritual expression, or in a negative reading as a tool of deception, with a presence that gives charisma and the suggestion that one has been touched by the other world. Vega is one of the 15 Bohemian stars long associated with astrological magic, possessing magical properties that amplify creativity, as well as bringing protection against demons and nightmares. Its deceptive, creative, and protective capacities are an exact match for the hidden powers of Mercury that become alive when it passes through its regenerative conjunction with the sun, especially when also forming a flowing trine aspect with Uranus. The otherworldliness of Vega can also be found in its mythic associations with Orpheus, who played the lyre so beautifully that the music was said to enchant all of life, everything from animals to stones. Orpheus was even able to enchant the guardians of the underworld, permitting him to journey into the underworld in order to retrieve his beloved Eurydice. In addition to the ability of Orpheus to travel to the underworld and back again, mirroring the psychopomp capacities of Hermes, as well as a symbolic underworld journey that Mercury retrograde guides us through, there is additional underworld associations with Vega through the image of the vulture. Agrippa, in 3 books of occult philosophy, listed the vulture as a magical image for Vega, and Vega has also been viewed culturally as the brightest star in a constellation featuring the form of a vulture rather than a stringed instrument. Vultures play a vital role in the life cycle through feeding upon the dead, and in another ancient myth, it was a form of a kite, which is a bird of prey that also feeds on carrion, that the goddess Isis took when resurrecting her beloved Osiris from death. Altogether, Mercury forming a conjunction with Vega as it passes through its conjunction with the sun and trine with Uranus signifies the immense creativity that can become regenerated and activated during this time. Listen for the song to sing or play your creation into being in the world. This is another poem by Rilke from his volume Sonnets to Orpheus. Does it really exist, time, the destroyer? When on the peaceful mountain does it crush the fortress, and this heart, always the god's possession, when does the demiurge pillage it? Are we really so anxiously brittle as fate would have us believe? Is childhood so deep, so rich with promise, in the roots, later on, stilled? Ah, the spectre of transience, through the guilelessly receptive, it passes like wisps of smoke. And we, with our driving, our striving, the abiding strengths assume that the gods have some need for us. This is poem number 27 by Rilke from Sonnets to Orpheus. After Mercury becomes regenerated by the sun, the middle of January will be dominated by the intensification of Mars stationing direct on the 12th of January at 9 degrees of Gemini. With Mars barely moving in the airy domicile of Mercury, it will gather and focalize energy to solidify new movement. If you have been unable to gain traction on all of the new creative directions you've been inspired to pursue since Mars station retrograde on the 30th of October in 2022, the week surrounding the stationing of Mars can be a potent time for committing to making it happen. Amazingly, around the same time that Mars stations direct, Mercury will also become intensified through its heliacal rising, becoming visible again as a morning star heralding sunrise. The divine presence of Hermes will be strongly alive and mediated by Chiron. For Chiron and Aries will form an exact square aspect with Mercury on the 11th of January, while Mars stations in range of a received sextile with Chiron. There may be an old wound to work through in mid-January that will ultimately prove to be an essential aspect of your work to come. Moreover, Mercury will station direct less than a week after Mars on the 18th of January at 8 degrees and 8 minutes of Capricorn, in an exact quincunx aspect to the degree and minute where Mars stationed direct. It will be extremely important to practice mindfulness during this time, paying close attention to any signs or omens in dreaming or waking life that reveal important lessons or insight into the choices you need to make. It will also be important to pay attention to triggers of conflict and restrain from creating additional conflict needlessly through words or behavior. At the same time, this can be a profoundly rich time for creativity and embarking upon new directions. Those involved in research or writing projects can discover deep wells of focus to apply to their work. Less than a week after Mercury stations direct on the 18th of January, Uranus and Taurus will station direct on the 22nd of January. Combined with the new moon in Aquarius on the 21st of January that demarcates the Chinese New Year of the Yin water rabbit, the week following the station of Mercury will bring an extraordinary turning of the tide and a massive shift in degenerative forward motion. After Uranus stations direct on the 22nd of January, all of the planets will be moving direct until the end of April, when Mercury will station retrograde once again in Taurus. In the week following the Aquarius new moon, Mercury in Capricorn will complete its final square aspect with Chiron in Aries on the 27th of January, with Mars 3 degrees away from an exact sextile with Chiron. Pay attention to how the tests and trials of the past month have led to newfound strength and courage to face adversity and push forward with your goals and growth. Matching the forward momentum of this time, Mercury will reach maximum elongation as a morning star on the 30th of January. The maximum elongation of Mercury demarcates another threshold to cross, as it initiates us into the phase of Mercury speeding up, as well as accelerating our capacity for integrating the many inner changes that took shape during the retrograde. Gary Crawford described the solar phase of Mercury as being similar to the rubedo phase within alchemy in his book Hermetica Triptycha. As we work to integrate the insights and changes in perspective realized during Mercury's retrograde journey, Caton noted that we should expect to endure a phase of chaotic volatility as we make a commitment to embody a new presence of being. With Mars and Gemini also beginning to generate more forward momentum, this will be a key period to take direct action on whatever you have been developing. Interestingly, Mercury will complete its final sextile aspect with Neptune in Pisces on February 6th, the same day that it moves beyond the place where it originally stationed retrograde. A few days later, Mercury will finally complete an exact conjunction with Pluto in Capricorn on the 10th of February, before leaving Capricorn to enter Aquarius on the 11th of February. These final major aspects for Mercury in Capricorn will take place around the same time as an extremely potent full moon in Leo on the 5th of February that will be forming a square aspect with Uranus while applying toward an opposition with Saturn in Aquarius. The Leo full moon will be the final major activation of the square aspect between Saturn and Uranus that has dominated astrology during 2021 and 2022. As a result, two of the long-standing transits that will be ending in 2023, the transit of Pluto through Capricorn and the square between Saturn and Uranus will both be stirred up as Mercury finally finishes its passage through Capricorn. Of course, the new year will not bring the final end of Pluto in Capricorn, as Pluto will only be in Aquarius from the 23rd of March until the 11th of June. And we will continue experiencing Pluto moving back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius until Pluto enters Aquarius for good on the 19th of November in 2024. Though you have already experienced immense regeneration in the Capricorn section of your natal chart since 2008 when Pluto entered Capricorn, the months ahead will bring opportunities for receiving deeper lessons of insight into the ways that Pluto in Capricorn has reshaped your life and perception. May Mercury help us receive and integrate the lessons and meaning we need to learn. If you enjoy my writing, please consider supporting my work through a monthly subscription on my Patreon page that you can find on my website. Take a look to see the benefits you will receive as a patron. Beginning in January 2023, we will be exploring the fixed stars in the Oak Branch tier, including the mythology of the stars and how to work with them not only in natal and mundane astrology, but also how to develop relationships with them through ritual and astrological magic.